I didn't want to tell people that I had fallen for someone who took such advantage of me. I felt so betrayed because I believed him. He knew the right buttons to push. He knew the right things to say to me. He said some beautifully romantic things that I haven't heard in many, many years. I don't ask people for help because I guess I am embarrassed still about it. I've always been embarrassed to ask for help, that I should be able to stand on my own 2 feet and take care of myself. But it's just not easy to do at this age. I can't get another job. I'm still looking, still trying. There's just one more thing that I would like to say about all of this. I think we need to get someone like me who's been through this out speaking to the older folks, going to senior centers or speaking to groups and explaining how this has happened. Let them know they're not alone and that they're not stupid for falling for something like this. That education has to get out there, that this can easily happen to people who are not necessarily older, but who are educated and well versed in the ways of the world. We need to change the attitudes about this, and it needs to be made more public. If someone asked me prior to this if I would fall for a scam, I would have said, absolutely not. Not me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janelle Mose with AARP North Dakota, and I'm so glad you've joined us for an event we're calling Faces of Fraud. I'll be joined shortly by Myrn, a volunteer fraud fighter with AARP North Dakota. She's here today to share her story with us and to provide you with tips to identify and prevent scams. Online shopping was already on the rise, but the pandemic has cemented it as the go-to shopping option for many of us. Online purchasing is the most common scam type reported to the Better Business Bureau, accounting for almost 35% of complaints. And a recent AARP-sponsored study found that 29% of consumers aged 50 and older have been stung by online shopping scams. The typical shopping scam usually starts with a bogus website, a mobile app, or increasingly a social media ad. The impact on consumers who experience scams or frauds can be financially and emotionally devastating, especially for older North Dakotans. The reality is that people who fall victim to scams and fraud are just that, victims, as well with other crimes. What we're hoping to do today is to help change the way we talk about people who experience scams and frauds. Before we get started, we want to involve you in this event, and we want to hear from you from an anonymous poll. So if you're joining us on Zoom, you'll see a poll question pop up on screen. And what we're wanting to know today is if you've ever shopped online. For those of you who are viewing this on YouTube, you won't be able to see the poll, but if you're on Zoom with us, go ahead and answer the question, and we'll get back to those poll results later on in the show. So take just a second to fill that out and we'll get going. So again, for those of you that are on Zoom, I want you to please note the Zoom features. So including the question and answer or the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. So we encourage you to ask questions throughout the program. We'll hope to get to those questions toward the end. And Myrn is here and willing to have a conversation with you both about her experience, but also sharing some tips and some resources. So make sure that you type those questions into the Q&A feature on the bottom. And just as a reminder, these programs are all being recorded and are available on our YouTube channel after the event and for you to share with your family and friends as well. So before I bring our guest on, I'd like to show you a video of Myrn sharing her story.
I found an item address here in the States. It's supposedly an item on social media that I really, really wanted. It fits very well into my limited space apartment. And so I checked it out. I found out that it's an American company. They have an address here in the States. It supposedly was available through an online payment service. So I went ahead and bought it and then sat back and waited and waited and waited some more. I contacted the company by email and got a reply that they were having supply chain issues with their provider in China. So I waited a couple more weeks and I again contacted them and did not receive a reply. I waited a week or so, and then I noticed that the item was no longer showing up on social media. I checked the website, it no longer exists. I went to the address I had here in the States. It does not exist. At this point, I notified the company that I was going to be contacting my credit card company to have them investigated, which is what they are in the process of doing right now. Actually, I do not expect to ever get my money back.
Oh, so thank you. And okay, so I'd like to introduce you to Mern now. As I said, Mern is a volunteer fraud fighter with AARP North Dakota. Welcome, Mern. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you for
Great.
inviting me.
Absolutely. Can you tell us more about yourself and why you chose to share your story?
Well, I have 3 degrees. I've been around a long time, negotiated a lot of things, and I still got scammed. And I figure if you got lemons, make lemonade. And this is what I'm doing here.
Well, thanks, Mern. We're really excited for you to share some information with our viewers today. But before we get started, let's take a quick look at the results of the poll to see what people have said about online shopping. And it does look like we do have a couple of viewers that do enjoy online shopping, as many of us do. We like the convenience, especially when we have many different platforms to use that from. So Mern, you look like you are in good company. There are others that do like to shop online as well. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is turn it over to you, Mern, and you're going to share some information, including ways to identify scams and frauds, and really to offer some prevention tips and resources. So I'll turn it over to you. Thanks, Mern.
Go ahead and put the first slide on. Okay, there are 3 top scams in the United States: identity theft, imposter scams, and online shopping. Now, I've already mentioned the online shopping. You can go to the next slide. All right. Everybody online shops. In my case, I've done it for a fair amount of time, and I trust it. What I didn't realize is that shopping off of social media is not the same as shopping off of regular shopping centers or sites. They're not patrolled the same way. Also, well, I'll get to that in a minute about using payment sites if possible and your credit card. We get to the next slide. All right. Identity theft and fraud. Again, this is huge. Scammers are looking to find clues to your identity, your name, your maiden name, your birth date, where you were born, your social security number, and your Medicare number is sheer gold because it can be used to buy a myriad of services and items, or supposedly bill it to Medicare, and they get paid for it before there's ever any checking done. Also, it can mess up your medical records, and it will it just makes life very difficult. Can we go to the next slide? This imposter scams. This is the one that I call the call that makes your blood run cold. It comes from a variety of places. It can be the IRS, supposedly. You owe X amount of dollars and you're going to go to jail, or your bank account's going to be closed if you don't pay up right now. go get some gift cards and pay it off. Or another site that it could be would be Social Security. And here, oh, your Social Security record has been messed up, and give me your Medicare number, your Social Security number. Again, this is gold. In fact, it's actually sold on the web in packets for about $50. Another Medicare, that's another one, as I mentioned. Another call that'll make your blood run cold. This is the police. You have missed your jury duty. You've not reported, and you're going to go to jail unless you pay your fine right now. Again, get gift cards. For those of us that use computers all the time, and most of us do, another one is this can be a phone call, or it can be a pop-up message that your computer has been compromised and that you need help. This one can be really used badly. My daughter-in-law's father lost $3,400 because he got a message, a call from Microsoft telling him that he had porn on his computer and he was going to go to jail unless he allowed them to take it off. Like I said, your blood runs cold. And then there's the pathetic one. The call, Grandma, I'm in jail. And we all love our grandkids. Oh, and the call always says, but don't tell my folks. I'll tell them when I get to it. But will you send X amount of money in a money order or a gift card to get me out of jail? And the immediate response is, oh, Susie, I'm so sorry. The scammers got you. They know the name of your grandchild. One real neat trick there is if you get a call like that and it says, oh, Susie, is that you? Oh, yes. That's funny. I don't have a grandchild named Susie. But there are a lot of things. There are a lot of ways that the scammers work on your emotions. You get so wrought up that you don't think as you would ordinarily. And this is just human. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, prevention strategies. In the first place, the one of like the IRS or Social Security or something like that. All right, let's go with the slide. Avoid making a financial decision in a heightened when you're all brought up. None of us does well at that time. One thing that you can use there is to say, oh, let me talk to my husband or to my son. Scammers don't want that. By the way, that's another trick. If you say, if I were to say, I'm going to talk to my husband, since my husband's been dead for 30 years, that would be quite a trick. But the scammer doesn't know that. Do your research. As I said, I checked out whether it was an American site, and if they had a way to get hold of them. Sometimes you can't get hold of this when you're buying something except through the social media. Not good. If you're giving to a charity, charitynavigator.org is a real good place to check out that particular charity. I've used it in the past. The brokers, that's for people who do things like stocks and bonds. Screen your phone calls. And then since these scammers are working off emotions, develop a refusal script. You're all wrought up. What do I say? How do I say it the right way? Just whip out your refusal script and use it. Think of it at a time. What am I going to say if I'm in this situation? Now, specifics, the IRS, Social Security, Medicare, they don't call you. In fact, from what I hear, you have a 40-minute wait trying to get into IRS for anything. And Social Security, I used to work for them. They don't have the human power to make phone calls. You have to, many times you have to go in and then wait and wait and wait some more. Having been a government employee for 16 plus years, the government isn't advanced enough to be able to use a gift card if it were to be paid. The police, maybe so, but I doubt it. And for the computer problems, have you ever tried to get through to Microsoft? They don't even have a chat line. They don't even have a call-in line. So they're not going to call you. All right, next one. You have to protect your personal information. And this means that you guard things that have things like your Medicare number, your Social Security number, you shred them. There used to be, before COVID, AARP actually had shredding dates, which I thought was wonderful. Always monitor your bills and your financial accounts, especially your Medicare account. Now, I know they're confusing to get these bills in and so on, but at least check the dates. Did I go to the doctor that date? Try to remember if you had a test or something else. Especially your medical bills can be really confusing because 2 months after you had something, you'll get a bill from a doctor you've never heard of who read your reports or something. You can get a fraud alert for your credit reports. You can also freeze your credit. And there's a place here that you can check your credit reports. Next spot. Next slide. All right. If I can't emphasize strongly enough, having an operating antivirus program on your computer. Sometimes it comes with the computer itself, like Microsoft has a pretty good one. But this is important. I had a friend who had thousands of dollars worth of Mac computer, and she spent a fortune on computer people coming in and trying to straighten things out because she didn't have antivirus software, and it was always getting messed up. Keep your passwords private. Don't share. In fact, it's probably best to keep your passwords separate from the computer itself if you're away from home. Use unique passwords for every online account. I know that's a pain, but that's where you might use a password manager. Sometimes they're even built into your system. Next slide. You can protect yourself. There is the slide shows you a number for the Fraud Watch network. You can sign up for free fraud watchdog alerts. You can look up and report scams in your areas. AARP helps you. In fact, there'll be we sent a list of sites that you could call, and that if you call the AARP helpline, you're dealing with people our age who've been there, who understand. Okay. All right. Now, just for interest, since I asked for this, how many people have bought something online and been defrauded? It's a poll. Go on. Have you been scammed online? Okay, give people a minute to do that. Okay. All right, can we go to the next slide? Now, again, I can't, one thing about this poll about have you been scammed? Share your experience. In numbers, there is safety. You feel comforted to know, oh yeah, somebody else has done it, has had that experience. You might save somebody else from being scammed. And believe it or not, and I know how reluctant we are to tell our kids that we've been scammed. You might even save them from being scammed. If you spot a scam, you can stop it. And is there anything, that's the conclusion of what I have to say.
Thank you, Mern. That was really great. And I think you've shared some really important tips, but you've also kind of broken down the stereotypes that people are afraid to share their story and share that they've been a victim of a scam or a fraud. And I think what is so important is that you've demonstrated today that it's okay to share your story, and it's okay to give people ideas about what to look for and how to prevent themselves from being victims of scams or frauds as well. And it does look like we have a question that came in. So we had a question about the vendor. So if you remember from the beginning, Mern, I talked about that there's different places that you go to purchase things online. So either through social media or a website. And can you talk more about, does this happen on all different platforms? I know you used a particular platform that you were shopping on, but it really doesn't matter the platform, right? Scammers are out there using different ways to lure you in to purchase something that might not actually be what they're offering, right?
These scammers are sophisticated in a way that we are not. They know how to play on your emotions. They can have a separate website that'll sell an item and you send for it, and you may or may not get it, but if you get it, it might be of much lesser quality than it's supposed to be. You can, social media, anybody can post on social media. There's no real safeguard on that. I bought many things on social media, and sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's not. Again, if you can possibly use a payment venue, an intermediate, so they'll fight for you, or always use your credit card because they have specialists who will fight for you, as they're doing for me. There's a variety of ways that you can be scammed, and these people know how to work it. And I personally don't do stocks, but I know that that's a real easy one. Oh, we've got this bargain, buy it now. This is a one-time offer and it's only open for the next 30 minutes. Again, they're playing on your emotions. Try to get away from that. And there's, like I said, there's a variety of places where you can get it. I can't say that any one site is scam proof, but there are some that are the well-established marketing ones probably are better.
No, I think that's important. And it doesn't matter what platform that you use to purchase something. And if you became a victim, you can still report that to the Fraud Watch Network, right? You can find a variety of resources using either that phone number or the website. Is that right, Mern?
Yeah, the website, and also we're going to be sending out the handout, and there are a variety of places that you can report things. Everything from the Attorney General to Senior Medicare Patrol to whatever that are specific to your issue. But again, call the AARP helpline because there you're going to get a sympathetic ear, and they can also steer you to just the right place for your particular issue.
I think that's important. We don't have any other questions right now, Mern, but is there anything else that you'd want to share with our viewers about, we hear all the time either on telephone town halls or we get messages from members across the state, they feel guilty and they feel, like they should have been able to stop this. And you talked about your story saying you're a trained volunteer fraud fighter. You go out and do presentations for people. And I think what you're telling us today is you're trying to debunk that myth, right? That this can happen to anybody and you shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel bad about it. Is that right?
There shouldn't be guilt. We grew up in a different age with whether there was more trust and you didn't have all these opportunities. Like, well, I've had problems with a scam on my computer. I don't understand a lot of what goes on with my computer. It just works. I'm probably more aware of computer use than most people, but still, I get that message that your computer has been infected. I panic. Again, it's emotion. Try to get away from the emotion and also the guilt. Anybody can be scammed. Government agencies can be scammed, and they've got all the experts in the world. It's a fact of life. There are people who specialize in finding ways to find vulnerabilities, and they go for them, and we can't possibly figure out everything. But sharing, if you tell your story and you're talking to somebody, the person might say, gee, I was approached like that, or they'll get a call and they'll flash back to your experience. Working together, we can work against these things.
I think you've summed it up so perfectly, Myrn. And in the chat, you'll notice that my colleague Wendy has put in both the AARP website as well as the phone number that we want to encourage folks to call, because as Myrn said, we can fight this together. And the more that we report frauds and scams, the more that we can look towards getting some of those folks, to stop doing that, but also looking at ways for you to prevent, future frauds. So I think your message has been so great, Myrn. Thank you for joining me today. And I really hope folks have learned a lot from you. And I know we'll see you again, and you'll continue to do these presentations and not only share your story, but share the information that you did today about preventing frauds and scams. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And good luck to everybody out there.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. So folks that are on the Zoom, if you want to stay online after we stop the live video, Myrn will stay on and she'll be available to answer some questions. We've got some other events that are coming up here in the future. The first one on the screen here is something new that we're trying this year. It's called AARP on Tap. Please join Kathy Schwan, our volunteer state president. She's hosting informal conversations and dialogues on online platforms to really give you the chance to talk about what's on your mind, but also to find out what we have going on this year related to, both advocacy and non-advocacy events. So that's every third Friday at 11:30 in the morning. So you can register for those events using the QR code on your screen. A couple of other upcoming events that we're really excited about. Wednesday, March 2nd, we're talking more about frauds, so how to protect your personal information online. We're also looking at brain healthy cooking tips, as well as our most popular series, which is the Social Security retirement readiness, as well as Medicare retirement readiness. You can find all of our events at aarp.org/ND events, or you can scan the QR code that's on your screen. But we're excited to offer these events here in the next few months, and we do hope that you join us. So thank you again. We really hope that you found that this program was helpful, and we encourage you to reach out not only to us, but also the resources in the chat feature by reporting the frauds and scams. And again, if you have questions and like to stay on after our live feed is over, we'd be happy to answer those questions for you. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.